Hello, everyone, and welcome to Perspectives by DGMC, an exclusive podcast series where wisdom meets aspiration. I am Sanman Udgikar, the podcaster. Today's episode is about an individual whose journey connects the worlds of academics and cinema, Miss Daivata Patil. She serves as an assistant professor in the Department of Communication and Journalism at the University of Mumbai. Alongside her academic role, she is also a researcher and TEDx speaker whose work explores gender studies and visual stories. She has shared powerful and socially resonant stories through her films. Her recent film, Asha, has received remarkable recognition, including the Best Social Film at Maharashtra State Film Awards. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out time and joining us today, and welcome to Perspectives by DGMC.
Thank you.
So, let's start a little with your early life, ma'am. So, how did you end up having interest in academics as core, and when was that one moment when you thought that I want to make my career in academics?
Frankly speaking, teaching was purely an accident. This may sound very cliche, but I never wanted to be a teacher. It was just, when I was doing my master's, someone told me that there's set-net examination and one of my friend was appearing for it. So he filled my form and he was like, you should attempt this one. And I don't know, maybe it was destined. I cracked the exam in my very first attempt without studying much. Rather, in fact, I just walked, I wrote, and I came back. And my professor called me on the result day and he said, congratulations. I said, for what? And he was like, you've cracked set exam. I said, how? I mean, I'd never wanted to be in teaching, that kind of feeling. And he was like, you're the only one who's cleared in that year in the subject of mass communication. So it was quite known, like the only person. So it's in the result list, it was Media and Communication Daivata Patil, my maternal name. And after about a year or so, my teacher, where I completed my diploma, he called me and he said, just come, I need to talk to you. And then he offered me a job, which was a temporary position, ad hoc position in the Department of Journalism, Mumbai, Pune University. And he said, there's this 1-year post, temporary post, why don't you just join? I said, I'm too young for teaching. I was 25 and a half. And I said, I hardly have any experience. Students are almost my age. I don't think so. I'm fit for this position. He said, then why did you appear for set? That was his first question. I said, it was just an accident. So consider this as an accident and no harm in giving it a try. It's just a year position. Nahi acha lagega to chale jana. So I said, okay. I was already working in industry at that time. I was with a PR agency as handling the corporate communication. I said, no harm. And the teacher's profile they were looking was also advertising and PR, someone who'll teach that. I said, okay, if you feel that I can do that, I'll give it an attempt. And I really admired that teacher, so I couldn't say no to him. And that's how I ended up in a teaching job. So that was Pune University, 1-year position. Maybe it was destined, again I say that. My last day in Pune University, because it was a contractual post, the teacher, another teacher of mine, said that there's an opening in Mumbai University. Would you like to try that? I said, I was anyway trying for a job in Mumbai because I was to get married and shift to Mumbai. So I said, no harm in trying again because I was anyway looking for a Mumbai job. And that's how I ended up in a Mumbai University job.
So, ma'am, you've been teaching in media and communication since 2008. And all of us know about, your interest in films, and you and Deepak sir producing so many movies. And, I would like to call you all, storytellers. So has your experience in academics also shaped the type of stories that you choose and the way you produce movies? Is it connected?
Oh, yes. In fact, teaching is also storytelling, is what I would say. Every day you have to perform in front of students. It's the same theory, it's the same concepts, they don't change over the years. But you have to give new examples, you have to make it entertaining, you have to enact in front of students, you have to progress in your storytelling format also, because it's been 18 years I'm into teaching, and I can't be the same storyteller what I was with the previous generation. So yes, I think teaching is also a storytelling, and probably that is what extended in my filmmaking. One of the prominent thing that has done, and that teaching has done to my filmmaking, is making socially relevant cinema, because somewhere I feel as teachers you are supposed to have that responsibility of social change. And both my films, I've produced 2 films so far, and the third one is right now at the script stage. So I would say all my films have been mainly highlighting on one of the social change issues. So the first one was on education and the burden students have, parental pressure basically. The second one is about reproductive rights of women. Third, people will get to know soon.
Okay. So as someone who's been so deeply involved into production and distribution of movies, and that too at a regional level, how do you see the current landscape for regional cinema in India, and with specifically maybe Marathi cinema?
I would not say regional cinema per se, because with the advent of technology and OTT platforms, I would call them as world cinema. Not even Indian cinema, because what film you make is available on internet for the entire world to view. So even Asha, it is available on Amazon Prime, and people from when you get that reports. So people are from US, UK, Australia. People are watching Asha. So I would not call it my film as a Marathi film. I would also call it rather as a world film. So where over here also, I'm sure you watched not just Hollywood, but Iranian cinema, or a French cinema, or Italian, Hungarian cinema. So it's like that. Once you have subtitles, or once you have dubbing, if you have dubbed in that language, I think everybody has access to that film. And storytelling, by and large, people are interested in the emotions per se. What are the narratives of that part of the world, and I think that keeps going. So I would be wrong if I say that it is Marathi film or regional film. I think it's world cinema.
Okay. With so many private universities emerging today, and a lot of institutes getting autonomy in terms of examination, in terms of a few academical aspects, how do you see the role of traditional educational institutes like University of Mumbai in the current situation?
First and foremost, yes, I agree that privatization of education has happened, and it's a good thing, because going by the sheer number of learners the country has, we need more universities. But I must agree that University of Mumbai or similar state universities or central universities play an important role in promoting inclusive education, because not everyone can afford private education, not everyone can afford to have that kind of fees, or even if a student affords the fees, staying there in hostel and other expenses becomes a huge chunk of expenses. So in that case, University of Mumbai or other state universities play a very, very important role in democratizing education. Besides that, I think it comes with its own wealth of experience. We are one of the oldest universities, and we've had the best of alumni, who have graduated from Mumbai University. And not just that, every year, even today, you see every year there's thousands and lakhs of students who graduate. They come back with their experience. So it's a collective experience that, I look at it, the legacy, I look at it. And of course, when privatization of education is happening, I'm sure these private universities will have to come back to state universities to, learn from this wealth of experience.
Okay. So can you also tell us a little about how is life at University of Mumbai as a professor, and you live at that campus? So how is that campus? Because a lot of people have that excitement of coming to Mumbai, living here as a student, earning, and but you're someone who's lived in that campus. You see so many students walking by, you're 24/7 into that space. So how is that experience?
2 reasons, I would say. My father was in the army, so I've always lived in Sarkari quarter. So, as a child also, always in the lush green zone, because in Pune, we used to stay in cantonment area, which was always a green zone. I think I am lucky, and probably I'll live longer also because I've had the best of oxygen all my life. So that is one aspect of it. But yeah, I think in the fast-paced Mumbai life, a 250 acres, no honking, complete silence, green zone adds a lot to your creativity, and you spend a lot of time with your own self. So I save a lot of time in traveling. I'm just 3-minute walk away from my workplace. So that gives a peace of mind, and that adds up, and it also gives you additional time. In Mumbai kind of city, people are traveling for 3 to 4 hours minimum. So I'm trying to save that 3 to 4 hours by living on campus, and probably that is why I'm able to make films as well as teach on campus and do a couple of other things which I'm doing. So I think I'm blessed.
True, you're really lucky, ma'am, I must say.
Indeed.
So broadly, ma'am, how do you see the overall quality of students studying in Mumbai? Because there is a sad notion that a lot of people believe that students in Mumbai do not take education really seriously. One, because of the fast-paced employment. Somebody who's even just out of the 12th standard can get an easy job, very easily. And the overall approach towards education is a little casual. Well, a lot of people also blame this because it's a metro city and fast-paced life. But if you compare it with Delhi or Bangalore, Delhi is very much civil services and UPSC centric. And when you go to Bangalore, it's a lot about startups and tech and IT. But Mumbai, we do not have a specific set of students. So how do you see students in Mumbai?
To your comment on quality of students, I think quality of teachers reflect quality of students. I will be the last person who will say that a student is not up to the mark or so. Every student is unique in their own way, and they have their own potential. Probably teachers are lacking in identifying that potential and shaping that student. So it will be very judgmental of me to say that quality of students is going down and all of that. Probably teachers are not able to match to the changing times. Every batch of students comes up with its own socio-cultural, political, technological environment, and I cannot have my own traditional ways of teaching to the new batches. Like I said, that it's been 18 years I'm into teaching, and I cannot have the 2008 batch being compared with 2025 batch, where you are already into the reels and social media and a lot of other distractions as well as sources of knowledge is what I would say. You have to understand these changing times. You can't have information as your exclusivity in the classrooms, because earlier in 2008 information was exclusivity because that information was not easily available. Now when you are talking, students can parallelly Google and find that information or correctness of that information. So of course, interpretation of that information, like you said, storytelling, how you simplify that information or how you contextualize that information is what will matter to the students of 2025. So I think teachers need to learn this aspect and bring that novelty in the classrooms. Secondly, when you say Mumbai students, I think Mumbai is a difficult city as compared to Delhi or Bangalore, because it's an expensive city. It comes with its own challenges, travel challenges versus life's challenges. To stay here, the staying expenses, food and all that comes up with a cost. Not everyone can afford it. And that kind of puts the student to a pressure or maybe a mandate to work, so that kids these days are very independent. They don't want to put additional burden on their parents, which is a very good thing. And then they are like कि मेरे माँ बाप ने ऑलरेडी इतना किया है, मुझे और खर्चा नहीं डालना है, तो मैं अपना कुछ कमा लेता हूँ ताकि उतना ही बर्डन कम हो जाए. तो फीस के अलावा भी there's so much which the kids have to spend. So I think probably this aspect of difficult life of Mumbai puts students to the work pressure and start early in the workplace, which I think is fair. So therefore it will be unfair to compare from that perspective, compare them with Delhi or Bangalore students. Thirdly, I think with the mode of transportation we have, We have Delhi students, we have Jammu Kashmir students, we have Kolkata, Northeast students coming to Mumbai, and vice versa. Mumbai students traveling to Delhi and studying. So that per se geographical location and the characteristics per se is myth. I think people are traveling across everywhere.
Okay. Okay. So coming back to the Marathi industry, in your own capacity, you've been a part of that industry for 2 films that you've released. Do you believe, ma'am, that Marathi movies are in a way competing amongst themselves? Because what is happening is Mumbai is not just the center for Marathi film industry, but also for the Bollywood industry. So here Marathi movies or Marathi content for that matter should not just compete with each other, but also with the Bollywood, the bigger times. And I think while Asha was released, Dhurandhar was also in the screens. So and there was another Marathi film named Uttar, if I'm not wrong. So that had also released. So do you think that there has to be a coordinated way within the Marathi industry, especially at least for the social films like yours? And I think even Uttar was about a relationship of a mother and a child, again a social issue and something. So maybe should there be a mechanism wherein Marathi movies are being released in a systematic way so that they don't start competing with each other, but rather in a systematic way Marathi parallelly runs with Bollywood? So what is your opinion on that?
I would agree and disagree both to that statement, because if you look at yearly calendar, you just have film releasing on Fridays, and the amount of films that are made every year and the number of weeks you have is never going to match. So you will at any given point of time have more films to be released, and next year, if you wait for next year release, again another set of films will be made. So it is practically impossible that you have exclusive slot for a film release. At any given point of time, you are going to compete with someone or the other. So I would not use the word compete, because content wise the films are different. So competition will happen when 2 genre films come together, like 2 fantasy films, 2 horror films. If they are coming together, yes, then you have to strategically change the date. But otherwise, I think every cinema has its own set of audiences, and if you are able to reach out to those audiences in their available time slot when audiences want to watch this film, I think you should be able to survive the industry. With Marathi films, yes, there is a competition from the Bollywood as well as Hollywood, because the modern youth, the contemporary city youth, is also watching English films. So from that point of view, yes, there is competition that audiences are not spending. I mean, they won't spend every week, so they have their choices. So, but that happens with the youngsters more, I think. With the middle-aged or elderly audiences, they are fairly loyal to Marathi cinema and they do watch Marathi films. You very rightly pointed out that Dhurandhar and Avatar and Uttar was there, and still Asha, which is comparatively a more social message film, less of a so-called commercial cinema. So even my distributor called 2 weeks before, and he said that, do you think we should change our date? I said, no, we are not competing with anyone. I have my audiences fixed. There are about 1 lakh Asha workers in Maharashtra right now, about 1.5 lakh Anganwadi workers who have already decided that they want to watch this film. So I have my audience fixed. And even if there is Dhurandhar or Avatar or any other film, this audience is going to watch the film because it is about their life. So whenever you release, this is your for sure audience. That was one. Secondly, Dhurandhar is a film which is more of a city-centric. Asha is a film which is more of a tier 2, tier 3 films. Uttar also, which is, let's say, I said if at all there is any competition for my film, I would say Uttar. Because it is a Marathi film. But again, Uttar seemed to be more of a city film. Mumbai, Pune kind of audience film. And my film was more of a tier 2, tier 3 city film. So we had our audiences defined. And Uttar was directed by Kshitij, who happened to be my student also. So we were to release on the day of Uttar, and I said to my distributor that let's shift at least by a week's time, so that I don't want two films to come together, especially for Kshitij's film. I don't want my film to be a competition or get into that any competitive space. So we had our film release dates spaced for those reasons. But still, I think we were not competing with each other. Uttar had its own set of city audience. It was more of a mother and son or daughter kind of a film, while mine was a more of a women's issues. So I think both films were
had different audiences,
and both the films did fantastic, along with Dhurandhar.
Yeah, that shows how much Marathi industry is growing, and that brings me to the next question. Is that I have interviewed, of all the people that I have interviewed from the Gujarati theatre industry or even the Hindi film industry, all of them appreciate the Marathi audiences a lot, and also the Marathi content creators, because Marathi industry has something very unique, which is they present simple things in a very different way, and they it's like they show us some sort of a mirror, and they keep the reality in front of us, which is very this in terms of theater and also in terms of films. So with that being said, when it comes to theaters, especially in Mumbai, we have a few specific auditoriums wherein there are only Marathi
Theater
plays that run. So similarly, do you also believe that or do you want, as a producer, to have specific Marathi theaters for films wherein there are only Marathi films? Because this is in practice. There are places in other cities, especially in South, wherein maybe in Karnataka or in Tamil Nadu, there are theaters wherein only Tamil films or only Kannada films are released, and they do not allow Hindi films or any other sort of films to come in there, and they have their own separate. So do you think that this should be followed in Maharashtra as well?
As a producer, if I have to answer this question, yes. I would want theatres or at least exclusive time slots which are kept for Marathi audiences. But as a media practitioner and a researcher, I would disagree to that. Because ultimately, it is not about preserving Marathi cinema only. It is also about doing business of it and looking at it from typical multiplex owners. There's a huge investment that has gone behind it. There's a huge cost to the maintenance of these huge properties, having 4 or 5 screens and the staff and AC and the rest of the logistics. It comes up with its own standard cost, which the theatre owners will have to pay, even if there is only one person or 2 people sitting in the theatre. So cost wise, only if there's 50% occupancy in the theatres, people, the theatre owners will have that equilibrium being achieved. So from that point of view, I think it will be unfair if we say that only have these films and don't run any other language film. I think we are in the transition phase of audiences, where audiences are loyal also and are not loyal also. Like there are certain set of audiences who watch Marathi theatre, but they're not watching Marathi cinema, which is a fact. Let's accept it. So I mean, there are some industry experts who say no, Marathi audiences go and watch Marathi films also. But as an insider, I know that Marathi audiences will never go and watch films on first day, first show. So they will Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There are very few films where Friday, Saturday, Sunday is houseful. And when I say few films, I mean 3 to 4 films in a year. But rest of the times, people, especially Marathi audiences, wait for the word of mouth, reviews and all of that. And from second week onwards, you will start watching, footfall. But by that time, the theatre owners don't permit, they are waiting for the film performance for the first 3 weeks, first 3 days only.
Yeah.
So by Monday, if the film is not performing, the film is out. So the show times are cancelled and all of that. So I think from that point of view, I would appeal to distributors that you need to understand that Marathi cinema is more of a word of mouth cinema, and you have to give that fair opportunity for the films to sustain in the second week. And with Asha, I did that. So I actually called, I don't want to name them, but I actually called theatre owners and I said that you have to give me a fair chance.
Hmm.
And they did.
Hmm.
I'm glad, but maybe because of the relationship I had with them. But they gave me primetime show in the second week also, and that's how I was able to sustain. Asha was in theatre for 5 weeks.
Oh, okay. So since we are speaking about Asha, can you just tell us a little about how this story came to you, and rather what was that one moment when either you or Deepak sir, along with your co-producers, decided that this is something worth investing in and this is the story that we want to show to the audiences?
Well, this question I've answered a lot of times in previous interviews, because everybody wanted to know why a film on Asha, because this is not a traditional cinema topic, and probably that is why it's all the more important that you bring the stories of Asha to the silver screen. Asha, I had heard of them, but during COVID time, I got an opportunity to closely, watch them or watch their work. When everybody was in the lockdown phase, they were the ones who were out risking their lives, and the entire COVID data that used to be in the news, a lot of it came from the grassroots Asha workers. And a lot of Asha workers died. And that data is hardly available, or it hardly came to the newspaper. When I was referring to this data, I mean, in my film also, towards the end, we've given a tribute to all the Ashas who have lost their lives in COVID time. So that aspect was fascinating. Secondly, as I run an NGO also, and I work in women empowerment spaces, mostly in the skill development part of it. So there was this workshop I was conducting for Asha and Anganwadi workers in north of Maharashtra, my husband's village. And accidentally on that day, he was also accompanying me. And while I was having this conversation, informal conversation with them, one Asha worker who was 22, 23 just stood up and started narrating her story. And the film is loosely based on what she shared. Okay. So after she finished her talk, when we came back home, the director of the film, Daivata Patil, he was like, that story is still there in my mind, and I think this deserves a film. And the first draft was, I think, ready in less than a month's time. Oh. It was that powerful narration of that Asha worker.
Okay, that's. I think you're more of that kind of a filmmaker, ma'am, who finds her stories on the go, and maybe your academics and your social work equally fuels your filmmaking.
Well, I actually feel everybody is a storyteller. Like, there are stories across happening. Like right now in this room, if you carefully observe, you'll find some aspect or some scene of a story. So you just have to be a keen observer and look at the stories, read people. Everybody has some or the other story to tell.
So what do you like to be called? A teacher, a filmmaker, a social worker? What exactly is
human?
A human. Okay.
Because these are just professional hats that you wear. You know, probably I may get bored of any of these, but humanity or living with people is something. So if you say where my heart calls, I think social work is something where my heart lies. I mean, given a choice, I would leave all of this and spend some time with the people and upgrade and change their lives, if at all I'm able to do that.
Okay. So we have a small rapid fire round also, ma'am, as a part of a show. So whatever comes to your mind first, or whatever is that one word, so you can answer it. So one word that describes Marathi cinema today.
Activism.
Okay. Your go-to stress buster?
Cooking.
Cooking?
Yeah.
A project that is still to be accomplished?
Not really. I am someone who believes to live in present. So I don't have any future plans. I never keep any future plans.
Coming to education, NEP or something better than that?
As of now, NEP. If something better comes, why not?
Do you believe there's scope of improvement?
Of course, always.
Okay. If not teaching, what other profession? Except not just teaching, maybe not teaching, filmmaking, social work, what else?
Oh, well, that's a difficult one then. If not teaching, it would have been filmmaking. But if I would not have studied media, I wanted to study law.
Okay.
So it's still on my bucket list.
So one topic you can teach endlessly.
People, culture, society.
Okay. One quality every aspiring filmmaker should have.
Keen observer
Mm.
and a quick learner.
Okay. And coming to the last question, ma'am, what is that one advice that you would like to share with all the students who are watching us today?
I think I would say that with the fast-paced social media, there are a lot of distractions you see around you, and it's very easy to sway away from the focus, and procrastination becomes a natural part of it. I would advise that come out of that greed of spending too much time on screen and focus more on other things. I would not say studying, but at least other things.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing those insightful, insights on all these aspects that you're into, maybe filmmaking and teaching and social work. I think there's a lot to learn from you, not just as a filmmaker or a teacher, but as you mentioned, as a human, to understand. And I know personally that you are someone who wears a lot of hats, who is there, here, there, everywhere. Including a lot of things. So I know how busy you are. So thank you so much, generally, for taking out time and being there with us for this podcast. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Perspectives by DGMC. We hope that today's conversation left you inspired and informed. A big thank you to you, ma'am, for sharing such beautiful insights with us, and to all our listeners for tuning in. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and remember that every perspective has the power to shape your journey. This is Sanman Utkikar signing off for today. Stay curious, stay connected. Thank you.